Oh my God. Man, it's only been like a week since I've driven the car. And I just put it in the garage just so I could work on it real quick because, like, man, that's just... Spring is coming so quick. It's so, look at that. Pollen, ugh. Anyway, why are we here? Let's talk about it. Good morning, good people. What's happening? Welcome back to the channel. It's that time again. Time to do another video, show you guys what I'm working on. So one thing I didn't take into consideration, or should have taken more into consideration, is the fact that the car's getting old. It's like 9 years old this year. And so little things can happen that can be problematic. So let's jump right into it so you can see what it is that I'm talking about. All right, so that's right. Yep. Major coolant explosion. So a little over a week ago, I think one day it was just kind of cool outside. It was actually one night. It was kind of cool outside and I noticed that my heater wouldn't turn on. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? So immediately I was like, is that the thermostat maybe? I don't know. All I know is I woke up the next day and my check engine light came on. And I was literally on my way back from the gym and same thing, tried my heat. I'm like, there's still no heat. So I got home and I plug up my phone. Says that I threw a bunch of codes, thermostat, valve is open, which to be honest with you is not a totally bad thing. I'd much rather the thermostat be open than for the thermostat to be closed. So there still appears to be coolant circulating around the engine. But what actually happened was this. So in the expansion tank, certain cars, you know, will have, well, most cars, all cars should have some form of a bleeder valve or a bleeder screw to kind of let out excess pressure. And that thing exploded. Now, some cars, different models, different makes, have it somewhere on the coolant line, sometimes on the return line or the main feed line. But for mine, it's sitting on the actual expansion tank. And so the expansion tanks can kind of deteriorate over time. Now, I did recently, a few weeks ago, I needed to get some additional maintenance done on the car. And I wanted to do a video about it, but I needed to have the work done. So I took it over to a shop and they did the coolant flush and they did the brake flush as well as the full transmission service kit. So a lot of the main maintenance has been pretty much done on the whole car. And then just shortly after that, I noticed that when I opened the hood, there was just nothing but just, you know, coolant just spraying everywhere. Like it went all over the hood, the engine cover, just it's all over the engine bay. So I'll get it cleaned up. So I hit up the shop and you know, they said, hey, it can happen. I was encouraged to replace the tank as well as the screw. So let's take a look at that real quick. Show you guys what I got. All right, y'all. So got a few items here that we're going to work on today. One of which is going to be the bleeder screw, which sits on the actual expansion tank. There's like a new one right there. I didn't actually see any damage or leaks on the actual coolant tank, but it is something that is prone to go at some point in time. So as a result, you can get these brass bleeder screws designed specifically for that tank. I think this screw is pretty universal for the most part, but I've been encouraged to get it, so I got one. In fact, the original screw right here, this is the one that broke off. Like, I just found it literally just sitting on the old coolant tank. So we're going to go ahead and get that replaced, as well as put that brass screw on. Now, I also did order a thermostat. I talked to the shop that I was at. They said, hey, yes, thermostats can go out. Not every single one will go out. So I'm going to kind of go through the whole spiel. This is actually a big job to do. I'm pretty I've done thermostats before. This will probably be one of the most complex ones that I'll probably do in the future. I don't think I necessarily have to do it right now, but I have one just in case. And I'll be sure to have a link in the bio for all of this and where I got it. But yeah, that's the thermostat there. But I have that as a precaution for the future. But that's really what we got for now. So let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, you've got a coolant line here, so we're gonna pop that off. Looks like there's some sort of C-clamp that's right on the top. I actually had this return line right here replaced, I think maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. I'm trying to think. And it literally went out, and I had my coworker kind of help me put it to the dealer, and they replaced it under warranty at that time. So thankfully this coolant line has been replaced. But this same line is connected to the expansion tank. We're gonna pop that off, and then at the bottom, I don't know if you guys can see that at all, there's an actual line right down there. Let's see if I can get a better angle. Maybe hard to see. But yeah, there's an actual line right here that I'm pointing at that goes up under the bottom of the tank itself. We'll replace that. And there's also a sensor clip at the bottom to detect low coolant as well. We're gonna get that replaced too. Not the sensor itself, but we'll take that off. So we've got 1, 2, 3 at the bottom. And then we have this little screw here that holds it in place. And then it kind of just sits right here on the frame, nice and snug. So let's go ahead and get started on that. But just so I don't make a further mess, I'm kind of laying some towels down in a few places, kind of right at the bottom of that return line there. Kind of lay some, just kind of around, try to minimize as much, additional spillage, anything you can or cannot see. Try to lay down as much as I can. So, all right, so on here, I'm gonna try to remove the C-clamp, taking a flathead, kind of just gently wedging it, just like that. And it's already a little bit loose. Try not to break it, both the clamp and the hose. Just kind of gently just wedge if you can. It slides off just like that. All right, so for this screw here, I'm using just a little bit of torque from this wrench here, and just a little bit of torque, just like that. I think this is equivalent to like an 8mm as well, but I use the 5/16, and as you can see, it came pretty much off. So on the actual expansion tank itself, there's a plastic clip. There's two of them, one here and one here. It's on the bottom side of this plastic piece of the expansion tank. It clips right into the frame. So what I did was very gently, even though I'm replacing this, I did very gently as I just wedged up on the tank itself, the actual clips came loose. All right, so for the actual tank itself, like I said, there's a sensor at the bottom of the tank right here, and you kind of just push up on the actual sensor and it'll just pop right out, just like that. Okay, so there's that. Now there is a little bit of fluid around it, so if you get any fluid on the sensor, it's okay. Just don't forget to clean the sensor off. Just be careful with the sensor. The wires connected to it are not very strong. So for the other coolant line at the bottom, there's another C-clamp. Again, very careful. Again, car's a little older, so just be careful not to break anything. Just like that, slide. And once the C-clamp is loose, you should be able to just wiggle and a screwdriver with a little bit of force. Get your towel ready for any remaining fluid so you don't make an additional mess. Boom. Tank is out. All right, as y'all can see, direct OEM replacement. This is the old one, old and dingy. So let's go ahead and replace it. It'll kind of freshen up the bay, engine bay a little bit. All right, while I'm here, I'm actually gonna go ahead and try to clean up the engine bay a little bit before I put everything back. So let's do that real quick. I'll be using Citral multi-purpose degreaser or cleaner. I won't need to be aggressive with it. And so I'm just gonna use this to kind of help clean up the engine a little bit. A little bit better. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and get the expansion tank on. All right, so like I said, if you guys can see, there's clips right there. And that's where these two clips are gonna sit right there. Coolant line at the bottom, C-clamp, coolant line at the top, C-clamp. And then that's where the screw's gonna go to hold it in place. And then our sensor right here, it's gonna go right there. Then you wanna make sure is this clamp piece right here. Make sure it's nice and snug in place, which it is. The combination of the coolant line at the bottom, the coolant line at the top. You don't really need any real torque, even though this is a slight impact wrench. You can kind of just, I'll use it just to kind of get the screw kind of in place and just like that. Now, since the bleeder screw on the old tank was obviously broken, there leaves a little bit of the piece on the inside where people have heated up like a screwdriver and then melted the leftover of the screw to take it out. Obviously, we won't need to do that. Again, if you're using a tool like this, you don't need a lot of torque, just a little bit like that. And so that is the old one. You can then take your new one, same thing. You are not gonna need a lot of torque on this thing. Once you get it in, I just realized too, on the inside of the tank, it's brass. So you simply, and this has, by the way, this one also has a built-in rubber grommet too, just like the old one. I think this will probably work a lot better too anyway. I'm barely using any torque. Just like perfect. All right, there it is. Got the new one on. All right guys, so I got coolant in it. For right now, before I do the purging system, I got the coolant to the coolant line right here. I'm fairly certain that when I do the purging system or procedure, I'll probably have to add more coolant, but because I'm opening up the expansion tank, before I forget, I'll have to re-purge it to make sure I get out all the air bubbles and whatnot out of the system. I'm gonna show you how to do the purge process. So one thing you wanna do is you wanna put it into accessory mode, like that. The other thing you want to do as well is you want to make sure that your fan is on the lowest setting, so all the way down with the heat all the way up. Okay, just like that, lowest setting, heat all the way up, accessory mode on, and then you want to take your foot and hold the gas down for about 10 or 15 seconds, and you'll hear the purge process start. In fact, it's already taken some of the coolant. Should be able to hear that. Usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes. I'll probably get a low coolant light on here in a second. Once that happens, I'll refill it to the fill line and literally do the process all over again until it's completed. And there we have it, guys, all done. Got the system purged. Probably gonna do it a second time here. Now, because it does take 10 to 15 minutes roughly, there may be times where, because it is using a lot of battery power, if you have like an external battery pack just to connect to the car, it'd be a good idea. I don't, but if it does run into any battery issues, I can always probably jump it. I have another car here, but not everybody has to keep a battery charger on it. From my understanding, it's not that big of a deal, but some people do, depending on how many miles are on the car age, things of that nature. But so far I haven't had any battery issues with the vehicle. But besides that, like I said, it's going through the purge process now. It takes about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm gonna have to put more coolant in it and then run it back again. So, but that's it. After this is done, like I said, I'm gonna reset the check engine light. I may have to do the thermostat at a later date. But from my understanding, we should be good. After this, I'm gonna take her, get cleaned up, get her driving around, make sure everything's good, and go from there. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate it. Just like before, your feedback is always warranted and necessary. So please, whatever I can do to get better, let me know. Hit like, subscribe, share with your friends, comment below, and I will have it in the description. A lot of where I got all of the parts from, like the tank and the thermostat and the screw, as well as the tools that I use. So thank you guys. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.